Hello! Finally, we're gonna get to do this. We're gonna actually talk about the monumental fucking shift that's happening with the nodal shifts. So, the South Node has been in Libra for a year and a half, and the North Node has been in Aries, meaning that for the past year and a half, we've been collectively and also personally, aka individually, in this process of self actualization, of becoming a bit more self reliant, becoming more um individuating ourselves in our process, taking the lead in a certain area of our life, wherever the Aries house falls for us, and activating our Mars energy. Activating our Mars energy indicates that this is a time where we had to kind of learn how to be selfish and take the lead in our own lives. And this came at a cost of letting go of some superficial relationships that were not serving us anymore, because we might have mistakenly thought for the past year and a half, if we continue supporting other people, that they're going to turn around and support us, or that we're going to win at life through supporting others. Because when the South Node is in Libra, that means that it's an energy that we have to kind of let go of and kind of go towards more of the North in order to kind of actualize ourselves and feel fulfilled. In this case, it doesn't mean that we need to let go of all our Libra qualities. It's just that we need to let go of the negative traits of Libra, which means that we superficially engage social relationships and relationships in order to kind of like gain status or be kind of overly polite and people pleasing, with the factor in mind of feeling like if we do so, we get to succeed and take ourselves further in our journey. However, with the North Node in Aries, it means that the whole point of the past year and a half was for you to initiate a new beginning somewhere in your life, potentially something that nobody in your family has done, or you being the first one to take the lead and do something in your life. Because Aries energy, wherever you have Aries in your chart, you're probably the first one in your family to take the lead and do something not different, but just new. So for the past year and a half, we've been in this self-reliance, self-actualization, individuation journey. And now the North Node is going to move into Pisces and the South Node is going to move into Virgo. This is the energetic shift. We're switching timelines basically. Now it's a time from becoming individuals to kind of turning into healing. Healing that is going to involve letting go of perfectionism, letting go of what we thought that we need to be or how we need to get there. You know, Virgo rules over the perfect rationale and service that comes from the fact of utilizing logic and rationale in order to get what we want, in order to be of service. Meanwhile, Pisces rule the emotional realm, the opposite side of this coin, offering emotional guidance, offering emotional understanding, and realizing that the only way sometimes to go is if we start to connect to something higher and deeper in life. With the Pisces North Node, it's indicating that we're entering a time where we're going to be realizing that despite many differences between all of us, we have a lot of things in common, and that is our feelings and our collective consciousness of how we experience our emotions. Now, our emotions and our sense of pain or loss of happiness or betrayal might come from different sources. So it's not like we're all affected the same way by some things. However, we all know the nuances of what we feel because we are all human at the end of the day. So we know what it is to feel happy, we know what it is to feel loved, we know how it is to feel betrayed, experience loss, be guilt tripped. It just comes from different areas of our life. So with this nodal shift entering Pisces, this is the moment where you're going to have to let go of perfectionism and you're going to have to stop judging people. You're going to have to stop judging people, and the only way that you can start this shift is if you stop judging yourself for the things that you thought that you needed to be in order to feel worthy of love. Because this is going to be the lesson: everybody's worthy of love, and you do not need to emotionally sacrifice yourself in order to kind of gain love. I'm not saying that there's not going to be compromise. I'm not saying that there's not going to be sacrifice. I'm not saying that you're not going to have to be understanding. However, you are deserving of love without having to kind of throw yourself away, without having to slave emotionally, without having to feel guilty all the time. This is a moment where, with the Pisces North Node, there's going to be an emphasis on wanting to save people, wanting to heal people, wanting for everyone to feel connected, and wanting to build a sense of community, and wanting to realize that the ultimate goal of life is acceptance and love. However, that is going to come from first forgiveness. You're probably going to have to forgive the Pisces area of your life, like whatever Pisces house is occupied in your chart, you're going to have to learn how to forgive yourself there and kind of form emotional boundaries there, which is going to help you by letting go of perfectionism, rationale, and criticism in your Virgo house. Now, with the Pisces North Node, it's going to be really probably emphasized that you might feel like you really want to save people, you really want to go out of your way to make people emotionally understood, feel emotionally accepted, but this is only going to drain you in the process, and it's just going to kind of make you have unsolicited advice from others, or you giving out this unsolicited advice to others. This is also indicating that we're entering a period of our life where you're going to have to realize that the only way where you can help the collective consciousness or the people around you is if you start doing your own healing. If you focus on your own healing journey and kind of leave the rest to God or the universe, you're going to have a funny way of realizing how everything fits in place without feeling like you need a rigid system put in place in order to kind of be useful or be of help. South Node in Virgo. This means that you're going to have to let go of like overly planning. You're going to have to let go of overly getting caught up in the details, and you need to kind of start utilizing your intuition and your emotional understanding in order not to fall prey to victimhood, self-sacrifice, feeling like the only way for you to be able to be of help is if you induce guilt or are subject to guilt. This is going to be an incredible time where we're going to notice everybody starting to be more emotionally understanding towards one another, but at the same time you're gonna have to see a lot of people like start playing the victim mode. And with a lot of people, when they enter victim mode, they're gonna trigger the savior complex in a lot of people, which means that a lot of people are gonna want to like be of help or of use by overly extending their emotional realms and their emotional capacities. And throughout this process, it's really important to watch out not to make someone codependent on you, because you may think that you're saving them, you may think that you're helping them heal, you may think that you're doing good by kind of offering all of your emotional capacities to someone. However, what you're doing is just you're making them codependent on you, because you're probably coming from the fact that you know how it feels to want someone to come and save you, you know how it feels for someone to want to come and offer you the help that you didn't need, and maybe you feel like you're extending this to someone and you're doing good. However, that might not be the case. You might actually be making them dependent and might not allow them the proper space to do their own sense of feeling, which means that they have to go through their own journey, and potentially you could end up criticizing them a bit more and kind of telling them that you do not accept their emotional flaws in a way. And it's not like you have to accept people mistreating you, guilt tripping you, making you feel bad. However, this is a moment with you establishing boundaries in your own healing journey by you displaying the healing traits that you've acquired throughout this time or you want to acquire. And by focusing on yourself, you're going to have like an energetic ripple effect on others as well by becoming the example. In this way, by you continuing the healing journey, by you going and doing those spiritual retreats or starting therapy or starting to be more mindful of how you portray your emotions and how you might catastrophize your emotions at time and might emotionally isolate yourself in a way of delusion of feeling like a bit too naive about if I love someone that I gotta give everything for them. And that's kind of sending the wrong message, because in a way you're not accepting yourself for your emotional flaws either. So that's why I said you gotta let go of judgment, accept people for where they are and what they're doing, and in this way you're going to be able to accept yourself for where you are and how you're doing in a way where you get to be present and start bettering yourself, your circumstances, with a bit of more hope and more life instilled in you. It's going to be an incredible period of time where we might see a really big rise on spirituality, we might see a big rise on community help, acceptance, loving each other despite our differences, and leaving behind criticism, the need to be perfect, the need to be show up as like superly like neat and be put together. And you're going to realize that there's space for you to be a mess and there's space for you to be however you feel at one exact moment, at one exact time. I'm not saying that you should be justifying your self-sabotaging behavior. However, it's going to be really important because the North Node usually increases the likelihood of whatever sign it is or house it is. So in this case, like the Pisces negative traits are going to be really easily accessible, which I was talking about victimhood, I was talking about delusion, I was talking about the savior complex, I was talking about inducing emotional guilt, wanting to relieve someone from all of their emotional pain, provide emotional healing to someone, but sometimes they have to be willing to accept it. Sometimes they also have to be willing to help themselves, and no matter how much you extend yourself to someone, they're not going to be able to like properly make space for them to heal, because a part of them doesn't want to accept themselves, and a part of them thinks that unless they're playing out a useful role in their life or in somebody else's life, that they don't matter. So this is going to be a tricky way where you need to like switch off the gears of what you thought made sense before, and once you let go of what you thought needed to make sense, you're going to realize how the universe makes perfect sense sometimes by just accepting and being present and allowing space for your emotions to roam without you being dictated by the hyper state of your emotional being when you're feeling overwhelmed. Because sometimes whenever we're feeling overwhelmed or when we're going through something really intense, our options are either become numb or try to do everything in order to not to feel it, or try to like react to every single feeling that we have. Sometimes what's needed is just to allow the feelings to roam through. So in this case, like the Virgo South Node is asking you to let go of rigid perfectionism. It's allowing you to make space for letting go of systems that you've had in order to deal with a very strict routine, what you've set out to make sense, how you thought that you might or should be useful, letting go of constantly feeling like being of aid or doing a service for someone. Sometimes the biggest service you can do to someone is just allowing themselves to be, creating space for them, listening to them, showing compassion, showing understanding, offering forgiveness. This is a moment in time where you have to realize that sometimes it's okay if you cannot be of help to someone. It's okay if you cannot alleviate all of their pain and loss, and you have to realize that everybody has their own journey, and by you stepping in to someone else's journey, you might deal with their karma. You might be absorbing their karma. So what you have to understand about the North Node and the South Node is that they have ruling planets as well. In this case, the South Node in Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So you have to be mindful of where Mercury is in your chart and what Mercury is doing in order to kind of let go of these bad Virgo traits related to where Mercury is and where the South Node in Virgo is falling in your chart. Meanwhile, when it comes to the North Node, Pisces is ruled by Neptune and by Jupiter. So you have to locate Neptune and Jupiter in your chart, and you have to realize that you have to implement spiritual laws when it comes to these two areas of your life, and you're going to notice an increase in abundance in life, in love, when you're properly accepting these areas of your life and starting to adjust and heal instead of like enter victimhood related to these themes in your chart. So it's going to be really important. Now, if you have a North Node natally in Pisces and a natally South Node in Virgo, it means that you're having your nodal return. This means where the North Node is entering the same sign as your natal North Node. In this case, you're going to start feeling like life is really throwing you a lot of like self-hate and self-criticism and lack of perspective, because you might be falling back into old patterns, and this is time for you to kind of step towards what brings you meaning in this lifetime, which means you have to go towards the Piscean positive qualities in your chart in order to kind of fully establish and feel fulfilled and kind of check off the box of you're on the right track during this time. This means that you're probably going to start feeling better about where you are currently in life, especially if it's your second nodal return instead of your first. You're probably going to start feeling like you're having a sense of direction as well. And if you kind of fall prey to your old patterns and these negative Virgo traits, you might find yourself being very dissatisfied, and you might find yourself repeating very like past scenarios, because the universe is going to be sending you these past scenarios until you completely get the point and realize that whatever you were doing back then, it's not really giving you any more satisfaction, it's not making you feel fulfilled, it's not making you feel like you're winning at life. Now, if you're experiencing a nodal reversal, which means that the nodes entering the opposite signs of your natal placements, meaning that if you have your North Node in Virgo and now the North Node is entering in Pisces, it means you're having your nodal return. This indicates a time where you might feel like you're going backwards in time to deal with the past. However, it's indicating that it's time for you to forgive your past and kind of retrace from step one in order to fully actualize where you need to be, because you might notice that there are some things that are not casually working, and it's like this flip around in your life where you might feel like you're starting over, but actually you're just revising in order for you to continue on to be in a better state, especially if you're around 27 and you're getting prepared for your Saturn return to come. This is going to be an incredible time for you to kind of realize that you might have been overly extending yourself in a certain way, and now the universe is giving you a check to be like, okay, it's time to kind of rearrange and work back from step one without feeling like you're starting completely over, but more like retracing and recapturing and recollecting yourself. Now, throughout this time, I'm going to also go through the whole rising signs and what this may indicate for you, or what area of your life is being activated with a nodal shift. And I'm going to talk to you based on your rising sign. However, your sun sign might relate, because, for example, if you have your sun in Virgo and the South Node is in your sun, it's going to mean a time where you're going to have to let go of who you thought you needed to be, how you viewed yourself as needing to be useful, potentially having to let go of criticism that you got from your father, or having to let go of criticizing your father. If it's your Virgo moon, it has having to go with the letting go of the concept of family, letting go of criticism of your emotions, letting go of having to need your emotions to be practical or useful to someone else. And unless you implement these changes, you're going to feel completely like you're floating. You can apply this to other planets as well. For example, if you have your Mercury in Virgo, you have to let go of previous mindsets or previous thoughts related to criticism, or feeling like each word you need to use has to be useful, or you have to be kind of a help or of service to someone. If you have your Mars in Virgo, you have to let go of like this rigid way of thinking that you need to plan every single move before you make a move, and kind of let go of your past anger, past frustrations, past sexual traumas, but potentially. Now, if you have your sun in Pisces and the North Node is entering, it's going to join your sun, this means that you're going to have a really emphasized time of potentially gaining some fame or getting some recognition, or realizing that your soul is continuing to work on some things that you might have been working on a lot of past lifetimes, and continuing to do the work in order to actualize and become who you are. But you're also going to realize that you've been working on some issues and you might be closer than you think. It's just that you're going to have to kind of step away from these tendencies to enter victimhood and savior complex in order for you to fully actualize yourself and accept yourself without needing to kind of like emotionally crucify yourself in order to feel useful or feel okay with existing. If your moon is in Pisces, it's going to be an important time to establish boundaries with like your family, realizing that you need to also forgive your family, but at the same time you need to accept for where they are and not feel guilty about wanting to continue to further go along in your healing journey without feeling like you have to constantly give up your life for your family. And you can apply this for your Mercury, Mars, Venus, whatever placement in Pisces that you might have. I'm going to start with the rising signs, and then I'm going to continue down. First off, Pisces rising in your first house. Pisces, you're going to realize that it's time for you to focus on yourself, and you're going to realize all the spiritual work that you've been doing, and kind of it's going to be emphasized period where you're going to also be more spiritual and learn to emotionally accept yourself in more ways than you thought, and kind of bypass and let go of these criticisms faced from your past partners. South Node in the 7th. Let go of criticizing your partners, letting go of criticizing yourself or the people in your life, letting go of people who are criticizing you, feeling like you have to be a certain way with people, feeling like relationships only work if you assign a certain rationale towards them. You also might realize that somebody from your past is coming back, and you're going to need to forgive them because you're going to realize that they're not perfect, but it's also going to depend on you, on the emotional boundaries you have in the emotional relationship, if they've changed in order for you not to act on relationships based on guilt and then have them criticize you and continue to criticize you, because during the next year and a half, yourself is going to be way more fulfilling and motivating instead of like people. So you need to shift the attention from others to yourself. If you're an Aries rising, the Pisces North Node is going to enter your 12th house. So it's going to be a moment in time where you have to let go of rigid routines, let go of feeling like you need to be like fucking anal about your health, and kind of develop a spiritual practice, which means that you either journal every day or go on a walk every day, or just spend 1 hour of your day doing something for yourself emotionally that's going to provide assistance. You might start to become way more spiritual. You might start to like practice some close practice. You might start to focus more on your mental health. You might realize that you want to move away somewhere abroad and live somewhere foreign. You might realize that you're getting more in touch with your spiritual side, but also you're going to have to be careful because you might really tend to emotionally isolate your feelings in order to provide order in your everyday life, and that's not really going to go well. If you're a Taurus rising, the North Node is going to enter your 11th house, so it's time for you to kind of emotionally accept what your dreams are, what you're hoping for the future. It's time for you to shift your focus from like dating or like judging yourself from how you express yourself and the people you like to date, or how you express love, or feeling like you're too critical of yourself and being too proud of feeling critical over yourself and criticizing yourself, into more like accepting yourself and building a sense of community. Potentially creating some emotional boundaries with some groups of friends that you have, or social media, or you might start pursuing social media in the long run and feel like very fulfilled by it because you're stopping yourself from criticizing every single way on how you kind of express your own soul. If you're a Gemini rising, the North Node is going to enter your 10th house, so this means that it's going to be a time where you're really going after your career and you're letting go of past criticism or criticism coming from your family or your past, and you're stopping yourself from wanting to feel useful to your family, and more like you're realizing that maybe I can be more useful to the society or masses during this time. At the same time, you're going to have to forgive a father figure or potentially your boss, or create emotional boundaries with your father or your boss without having to induce emotional guilt or feel guilty towards them, but kind of like foster space for forgiveness and kind of accept where you are and how you are, in order for you to kind of like pursue what you want to do, what kind of legacy you want to create. And in this case, you're probably going to go through some job changes. Cancer rising, the North Node is going to enter your 9th house. This means that it's going to be a period of your life where you might focus more on uni, you might go back to school, you might start creating emotional boundaries with schooling, you might form your own spiritual beliefs, you might let go of your past ways of thinking and mindsets, you might let go of some criticism regarding your siblings, or you letting go of some old friends and kind of focusing more on like your own way of beliefs and thoughts that you might want to pursue. Like, think of this like developing a healthy relationship with religion or creating boundaries with religion. At the same time, it could be a time where you pursue publishing. It could be a time where you're wanting to do more long-term travels, potentially move a bit abroad. It depends on your chart. If you're a Leo rising, the North Node is ending your 8th house, so this is a time where you're going to have to emotionally accept yourself and kind of remove some self-criticism based on your money, based on your possessions, based on your self-worth, of how useful you have to be to others, and more kind of create emotional space for intimacy and kind of like realize the guilt you might feel towards your sexual desires or past traumas, and you're going to really be learning more about your psychology during this time, and it's going to require forgiveness and acceptance instead of entering victimhood for all the things that you might find taboo about yourself. And this is going to be a moment where you might also focus more on long-term investing or other people's money. You might be dealing with taxes, you might be dealing with investments, instead of just focusing on your own set of income. So it's going to be more like emotional connection instead of material connection that's going to kind of give you fulfillment during this time. If you're a Virgo rising, the North Node is entering your 7th house. You're probably going to meet someone very fated. You're going to have a lot of fated relationships that you're being required not to overly extend yourself, but create emotional boundaries, but like stop your self-criticism, stop reverting back to how you having to be a useful person, and kind of letting go of whatever you thought you need to do, of however you thought you need to be of service, and kind of more focus on relationships, because you focusing on yourself is not going to be fulfilling this time. It's going to be more about other people in your life, and through supporting others in your life and finding that commonality of like emotional expression and fostering emotional understanding and also emotional boundaries, you're going to be able to kind of let go of these people that are coming in your life that are just inducing guilt, victimhood, and having you overly extend yourself and criticize yourself in order for you to be useful to your relationships. If you're a Libra rising, the North Node is entering your 6th house, so you might be kind of starting a new habit that's kind of creating emotional space for yourself. You might be starting therapy, you might be letting go of past addictions, you might be letting go of criticizing yourself for past addictions, you might let go of like judging your mental health or judging the way that you engaged yourself in a foreign space. You might be letting go of judging yourself for the beliefs that you've had over spirituality, over your mentality, and you might let go of like isolating yourself in criticism in order to feel good about yourself, but more like foster emotional understanding in your everyday life, which could mean that you're picking up some kind of new hobby or new way of dealing with your health, or maybe creating emotionally boundaries with your coworkers and the way that you offer work, because you might be realizing that you might be doing more emotional labor than you think. And also you have to kind of like stop guilt tripping employees if you have them. Scorpio rising, North Node is going to enter your fifth house. It's going to be about dating. It's going to be about self-expression. It's going to be about being okay with being proud of yourself, accepting yourself for who you are, but it's going to involve letting go of some past friendships, past groups of friends, past ways of criticizing yourself for social media, criticizing your dreams, and you're going to have to let go of like focusing on big groups and kind of more focus on love. This is going to be a moment in time where you might be also building understanding and fostering understanding with your kids if you have kids, or like creating emotional boundaries with your kids and leaving the guilt behind, and especially the criticism that you've been facing from some groups of people in your life, potentially older siblings. Sag rising, the North Node is going to enter your fourth house, which means that the private life is going to be more fulfilling than the public life. It's going to be a time where you're going to have to forgive your parents or one of your parents for something, forgive your past, make touch with your past, and realize that you need to let go of some societal criticism regarding our families, and kind of let go of like criticizing your public image, and kind of realize that the people who actually know you matter more than instead of what society deems out that you should be doing, because you've spent too many times now trying to foster or create this perfect image in your society, in your social, sorry for burping girl. And it's going to be a moment where you're going to have to learn how to properly create emotional space and emotional boundaries with your home. You might be switching homes during this time. You might be letting go of past jobs, and you might be kind of meeting some getting with some like past life job that you've had. If you're a Capricorn rising, the North Node is going to enter your third house, so forgiveness over your siblings, kind of indulging more in your surroundings, accepting your mindset, also letting go of this victim mindset, letting go of like victimhood in your mind, letting go of feeling like you have to emotionally sacrifice yourself all the time, and letting go of some past beliefs, especially about criticism about religion, being a foreigner, feeling like an immigrant, letting go of past judgment that you face from uni or like higher education, or potentially some mentor that you've had. This is going to be a moment in time where you kind of like solidify a bit of your mindset in more of a spiritual knowledge instead of like savior sacrifice kind of knowledge. If you're in Aquarius rising, the North Node is going to enter your second house. It's time to make money. It's time to focus on your basically sense of confidence by creating emotional boundaries and not feeling like you have to overly emotionally extend yourself in order to feel accepted or feel good about yourself, but actually accept yourself for the spiritual laws that you carry and the spiritual work that you do, and kind of like build your confidence around your spiritual knowledge and emotional understanding and forgiveness that you might have. And this is going to happen by letting go of judging yourself for your sexual impulses, judging yourself for your psychology, judging yourself for what you received from others, or for example for your investments, or for example from your taxes or long-term investments. This is going to be a time where you focus more on building material wealth instead of emotional wealth in that way. But it doesn't mean that you won't get emotional investments or whatnot. It's just like letting go of criticism regarding those areas in order to focus on something more tangible during this time. Wow, this was my first Astro video. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I was a bit quick and all over the place, but it feels kind of weird sometimes where I don't have a track on what I'm saying and how I'm saying. But let me know if you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what kind of video do you want me to do next. And please leave a like, comment, and subscribe so I can start doing this more for you guys, because I feel like this is going to be a way more positive approach to my YouTube, that I'm going to be incorporated astrology into it as well. I hope you have a lovely, beautiful rest of the day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!